I've started a resource page on the Pacifica Network site. I'm hoping to have it up very soon so we can have all these links all together in one place. A lot of people have been making PSAs and to share if anyone else wants a model to use. And Robin just did one for a greeting, which is really great. So he's kicked that one off. And so yeah, that should be up soon shortly too. So people can have one place to go to get to use or to share for other people to use for these PSAs and station-to-station greetings, which will be super nice. I think it's a nice way to just remember that we're together. We're all in this together. It's a nice way to do that, just to say hi from our station to yours. And I think that's all I have right now. I have a list of topics here that Ursula and I had talked about, and the first one is how to best serve the community and slow the spread of disease. Does anyone else want to start the lead on that? And then just as a reminder, if whoever's not talking, everyone else to mute your mics, and then we can do questions after.
I have one concern. There's all this all over the internet, is all these people making face masks. And it's just crazy. I've researched it, and it's made of common fabrics, like 2% of the virus. And there's so much misinformation. I wish someone would do, with medical background, would do real coverage of that, because people are making these masks and using them with no medical background, with every other kind of material. And there's a Netherlands study that showed that their handmade masks are less effective than N95 and N99 masks. So I'd be interested to see if anyone else would research that.
Well,
Yeah,
I
really
think that's a good point, Robin. I think maybe that's something Mark Allen could do for us. He told me that he would make any PSAs that we wanted, since he's an infectious disease doctor. I like his metaphor for the chain link fence and water. That's kind of what he was giving the image of the masks being like a chain link fence trying to hold back water. But he kind of, I thought he was helpful. He said, you know, under what conditions you should wear a mask. And I thought that was kind of helpful. So I could ask him whether he would make, you know, he probably knows how to talk about these things without upsetting people too much, since I think most doctors have to know how to do that. I don't know, I'm happy to ask him, see if he would. He did say, you know, let me know if you want any PSAs made.
Well, again, we interviewed a 30-year expert in this disease from New Mexico, and he didn't seem to care about it, whether the masks were effective or not. I just can't understand that, because protecting the medical workers particularly is really important. And also, you know, even people using them thinking that they're going to protect them. The physical distancing is far more important than the sanitizing than wearing the mask.
I've heard, or I've read a little bit about some people who make the homemade masks. Is there like a second layer of protection that they put over the first mask? In that context, it makes sense to me, but I need.
But it doesn't make sense. Think about it. If you put a cover over an N95 mask, and the doctor or someone, you know, takes the test from someone who's infected, they're going to be breathing virus through that 2% coverage. It's still going to be covered all over the N95 mask. When they take that cover off and put another cover on, when they breathe out, they're going to be pushing out virus onto the next patient. It's crazy to me. I just do not understand. Maybe I'm myself, but it seems really dangerous.
That makes sense though. Yeah, need better information on it anyway.
Stephanie, I'll go ahead and kind of put out what some of the programming adjustments we've made. And I'm doing this partly because I really want to hear what other folks are doing. This has been a major preoccupation of mine for the past 2 weeks, is what to do with the airwaves and how to sound, you know, relevant right now. And so, so far it's kind of crystallized into a few things. One is we used to do a morning program 3 days a week. We do it 5 days a week now. And we in our town, we got the, we were fortunate in that we, for the past few years, have invited the city public relations officer to have a regular monthly slot on our morning show. So she was accustomed to us as our various other public officials. They had, they kind of knew us already. And so they have agreed, the city public relations official has agreed to bring a guest every morning to KHOI. I mean, not physically, we're doing this all by Zoom. But we are arranging for her to bring some public official every morning to talk about what's happening. We've had the food banks come on. We've had the primary elder care facility come on. Today we had the fire chief, who's also the head of emergency services. We've had the mayor. We've had the electric guy, just all the infrastructure people. She's been bringing them on, and they come on for about 15 minutes and talk about what they're doing. And what we've learned is we have to really push them to stop talking about themselves, because they're very preoccupied with how to manage the situation. So they tend to come on and talk shop, like, this is how we're doing our backup and blah, blah, blah. And people really, more than that, they want to know to a certain extent that the city is, has contingency plans, but mostly they want advice and information that they can use. So we found we really have to push them and ask them very direct questions, like, don't just tell us how you can pay your electric bill. Tell us how we can now conserve energy, and tell us what happens if we can't pay the bill. And, but that's gone over really well, because people appreciate hearing the community leaders' voices, and it gives people a sense of confidence and a sense that they're getting accurate information. The mayor was, needs a little bit of work, but, we'll get there with him. But so that's been, I think, really helpful. We've also had one state senator, state senator, not US senator. He has really taken on the role. He doesn't have anything to do because the legislature has been suspended, and, the governor's doing everything. So he's coming on 3 days a week with information about the government and explaining, how things are working on the power side of things and the money side of things. And that's been helpful too. And so people, they like the information. They like it when the officials say, if you want to know something, you can call us here. They like hearing that. They also just like hearing their community functioning and feeling like they know what's going on. And so so we've been doing that, and the first few times was kind of rocky, but we've gotten to the point where we can do it pretty easily by Zoom. And people can see each other, so it's kind of a virtual studio. The sound's not great, but it sounds like Crisis, so people, it has kind of an exciting sound, even though it's kind of wonky, the sound. So that's one thing we're doing. Another thing, one of our volunteers here has started a little program called Heart to Heart Messages, and she's putting out in various platforms that people can text her messages to the community that she'll read on the air. And so she's kind of inspired by the old school. You remember, like, people that got on the radio and you could make dedications and send messages to people you liked. She's kind of using that as an inspiration. So she's airing messages, and then she's kind of improvising and talking a little bit about the people who are giving them messages, because a lot of them are, people that are also have leadership roles in the community. So, and it's basically people are sending her, inspired thoughts about, how to think about what's going on. And that's gone over pretty well. People like hearing that. They like hearing that the care behind it. And the next thing we're going to start, we haven't done this yet, but we're going to start next week, is you know, probably like you, our producers are not here. They've all been sent home. We're essentially alone in the building. And they don't like being separate from us. You know, nobody likes this. And so we're going to try doing kind of a new show where, you know, maybe 5 producers at a time do a show together on Zoom and, you know, relate, you know, their thoughts and stories they're hearing. Everybody's hearing interesting stories about this and that. And, you know, everybody brings a story, possibly brings you know, a guest if they want. And just at least once a week, we'll try it once a week for starters and then see what happens. You know, kind of, we're calling it, I don't know, what maybe it's a, you know, a community conversation. And I guess we can eventually try and ask people, invite people to call in. We're not quite technically up to speed to do that, but we could probably try it and tell people they can call into Zoom and see what happens. But for now, we're just going to invite the KHOI hosts to come on as a group and just spend an hour sharing their thoughts, and then we'll see where that goes. You know, it could have a theme sometime. We could maybe have a mental health worker come. You're probably going through this too. We're kind of hitting the spot where people are starting to just feel beleaguered and want mental health. You know, they want emotional support, want strategies for emotional support. We're requiring every host to give out, you know, specific information at the beginning of the show. And, you know, and the next thing we're trying is, you know, and we're running PSAs, of course. And the next thing we're going to try is the physical thing, the local arts organization in town. We're going to start asking them, inviting them to send in drawings and images that we can tape to our front window. We have a storefront building, and a lot of people are, they're kind of cruising by, you know, outside and with bicycle or dogs or whatever, and they're kind of like, you know, looking for signs of life. So we thought we would do like a project where we have artists in town put up images as a greeting, just as, you know, one place where there's a point of contact. Also, quite frankly, you know, we're a station that really still needs to establish ourselves better in the community. And so this gives us an opportunity of really growing into that role of, you know, providing the local voice. So those are some of the things that we're trying. It's, we have a concert series, and we did it last night for the first time via Facebook, and that was kind of an adventure. But it kind of, you know, it worked. We'll do that again. So those are some of the things we're doing. I'd really like to hear, you know, some of the things you guys are doing, you know, so that it starts to really fit the times. I guess that's all I have to say right now. I'm really interested in, you know, what's going on in your heads. It's taken me a while for me to clear my head, you know, to figure out how, you know, what to do.
Thank you, Ursula.
Okay, I was thinking, because I have another meeting at 2:00, we're zooming along. So I'm from KSQD in Santa Cruz. We also are a new radio station. We have been in existence since February of 2019 over the air. And we're doing some of the things that Ursula was talking about. We have created on our website a space for people to go to get especially local information about the coronavirus. We get regular updates from the county and the city about their ordinances, and we have an email address called onair@ksqd.org, and that one I send from whatever comes in, I send that, and then people read it immediately over the air. So we try to be as prompt as possible in giving the information to people. We are getting right now, and I'm not sure, maybe you can help me with that, we're getting from a local group in Live Oak where I live, I get updates about which restaurants are open and which are doing takeout and all that. And I wasn't sure if it would be legal okay for us to say that over the air, which ones are open and which ones do takeout and which ones are closed. So maybe you can help me with that. The other thing we have been doing is we have had a Zoom meeting with certain programmers, with several programmers and our board, and discussed what we would like to do. And, you know, I won't repeat what Ursula said, but we're doing, or we're going to do some of the same things. The other thing is we do have our programmers still come into our station. We have a strict protocol about washing your hands coming in, wiping off, you know, microphones, consoles, and all that, tables. We provide people with gloves if they want that, and other sprays for the microphone covers. And we ask them to do the same thing when they leave, you know, clean everything up, wash their hands, and then leave. So we still have people come in, but of course we keep to the 6 feet separation, distancing for as a requirement. So we're still open, but we have several, well, some programmers who are sending in their programs, and then we have board op people who then make sure that they get aired at their particular time. All of our programmers who have talk shows, they have guests on the phone, and we have a lot more call-in programs also, but so on the phone, so no guests or anybody else in the studio. So that's kind of what we're doing, but maybe if you can give me an idea what you would think if I get information about restaurants that are open or closed or do takeout, can I legally put it on the air?
Well, Matt, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my impression is as long as you're not being paid for it, I don't think there's a legal problem.
Yeah, that I would say the same thing, and probably for good form, making sure to share the wealth in the sense of, you know, don't just do underwriters who are already giving you money to, you know, you can't take money for doing these, I don't think right now, because it is advertising, but it'd be a good idea to share those announcements, or put them on your website too.
Michelle
And don't
Bradley
make
here.
a call to action.
Yeah, no call to action.
Right,
Yep.
just the facts.
That's correct. So I get a list. I just got a second list from a group in the Live Oak area where I live near Santa Cruz. And all they say is this restaurant, open, closed, takeout, phone number, and no call to action. I mean, we were very, very well aware of it. And none of those people are underwriters.
You know what may be a good idea too is, yeah, if as long as you're not getting any remuneration, you're not getting anything from these folks, there's not going to be an issue. One thing you may want to consider doing, and this may also be a help to the listeners too, is maybe do a segment and do a list of the places that are open and just say, these are the places that are currently reported as being open, you know, blah, 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 you know, phone number, blah, 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 you know, go down the list. And then, you know, maybe put a tag on there that, you know, if your restaurant is currently open, please call us or visit our website, fill out the form, whatever. And, you know, we'll look at adding you on. But yeah, as long as you are not receiving any remuneration for in conjunction with that specific announcement, there shouldn't be an issue. But again, don't, you know, be careful, stay completely away from the killer verbs and the other things that we try to avoid when we're doing when we're writing copy.
I probably wouldn't give phone numbers. I wouldn't.
Right.
Matt.
You might think about too, having a time or specific times during the day that people are used to, that they can tune in then and get that information the same time every day. We started doing a live report in the afternoon that's only 5 to 10 minutes long with our news and public affairs director, and it's in the middle of a music block, but it's 5 minutes of information about what's happening in the state and what services are available, and et cetera. And it's not a big thing. It doesn't, but it takes a few hours to get ready for. But we've also had a thing that's similar to keeping our public affairs hosts on the air, of them in the morning calling in on, the only show we have live going on right now is our morning show, and staff is covering that. But having our public affairs hosts call in for 5 minutes and talk about what's happening in their area of expertise around the pandemic. And we've only done a couple of them so far, but they worked out pretty well. Because you've got these public affairs hosts who have a lot of knowledge and connections. We haven't got brave enough to do a Zoom meeting radio show yet, but I think we're gonna probably try that next week, but we'll see how it goes.
This is what we learned from it. Make sure people come on about 15 minutes ahead of time so you can work out their kinks, and try to convince them to either use their computers or landlines, because even though landlines cost money, but cell phones tend to be wonky. They tend to make the extra noise. Some don't, but those were, two things that we learned really fast.
Can we talk about Pledge Drive for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we
This
get
is
to the
Casey.
discussion first?
Say again?
Can
Well,
we
I
get
was
to
thinking
the
of-
discussion first?
You broke up a little bit. Whatever you want to do, go ahead.
I just would say that I'm really enjoying hearing kind of just an overview of what other stations are doing right now. It's been, for me personally, sorry to dive in, but I just want to start with this, is that it's just been very emotionally taxing. It's a great responsibility to have a radio station at this time, especially a community radio station. In our town, the only station where community members are getting their voices on air and talking about this. And I think what Ursula is saying is extremely important, just the communication right now, because everybody is so secluded and so locked away from one another, and just this conversation, this knowing someone is there. Our station has not done as much public affairs as a lot of your stations have done, although we have produced a program in Spanish that's on the Pacifica Network. That's a wonderful 15-minute informative piece that we're playing daily. We have our DJs are reading. They are coming into the studio still. They're reading PSAs twice an hour required, and then I'm finding that they're just absolutely elaborating on that with everything that they know, with a lot of great information that they brought into the station. And really just, I think, more than a public affairs news thing, because there's a lot of that happening, it's almost a relief for the listeners from all that, a break to listen to some great music. And there have been wonderful radio shows, everything from very somber radio shows to shows that are, kind of having the most kind of fun you can with the pandemic theme, to laugh, to keep from crying kind of thing. But we do have the protocols in place that a lot of you are talking about. To me, it's something that keeps me up at night. Wondering if it's okay to have the DJs coming into the radio station. So we've basically enacted an at your own risk DJ policy, and I remind them of that at all times. That is up to them completely if they want to come into the station. Only one person at a time, no guests. When they transfer shows, maintaining the 6-foot rule. And then intense disinfecting practices when they leave, where they have to wipe down everywhere they've been, and then we're coming in on a formal way and cleaning daily as well. So it's been extremely rigorous and intense to keep it open and clean and trying to keep it healthy for the stations. But we're also giving them the opportunity to remote broadcast from home, which we've just now started with the Zuricast. And that's a pretty cool thing I could talk to you guys about later. But that's kind of an overview of what's going on at our station. I'd love to hear what's going on at WPVM as well. I know that you guys are still in studio too.
Yes. Yeah, well, we're not in studio, and we only have a couple of people coming in. The rest are doing their files at home and sending me an audio file. And then I email it to me, and I log on remotely and download it and put it in their folder. The other thing that I'm doing is I go to the Mayo Clinic has informational minutes, and to dispel some of the crazy rumors or crazy ideas about how to avoid being contaminated going around. So I'm trying to use Mayo Clinic and the CDC using recording their reports from off of the internet, and then I load them into Play and stick them into the playlist. And then here in town, we have a number of grocery stores that have opened early for all vulnerable people. So we've got a list of that. We report on that, the listing of all of the stores that are open. All these I do into an MP3 file, and I just, with station playlist, I can just go like every hour. Okay, well this time I'm going to put CDC in, or this time I'm going to put the grocery store hours in. So I just keep plugging it in a couple of these announcements every hour. And that's while all the music is playing. We have a lot of music in the afternoons. We basically have pre-recorded shows in the mornings. So that's what we're doing.
Our station is mainly live, 18 hours a day. I don't really have a very good automation system that would allow people to do shows at home and then dump files into some type of playlist. So we are strictly live, following all the same protocols you are in terms of Germex and Clorox wipes and Lysol and this and that with windscreens and, you know, protocols of wiping things down before you come in. We're mainly music. Public affairs shows have been told not to bring guests into the studio to do phone interviews. So we don't really have a whole lot of wiggle room in between being on the air and off the air. In terms of our folks are live and they're on there and they're doing the best they can to provide info, but we're mainly a music station. I don't have a music director. I don't have a public affairs director. I don't have a news director. I have me.
That's where
and I got exposed on March 6th and self-quarantined myself for 14 days. And basically had to communicate with everybody via telephone, text, and email.
I was just going to mention, we've been a live station as well all this time. In fact, we've been absolutely dedicated to being a live radio station. Automation is something that goes against my bones, but this is obviously a drastic situation. That's something that we never imagined. And we've looked into, thanks to Garrett Kelly at KHUH. He is connected us with a program called a Zerocast, and it now allows the DJs to broadcast live from their homes. So yeah, it's really hard to make the transition from a live station to in studio to a live station in different locations, but it is possible, and now we have some time on our hands, and we've really dedicated ourselves to that. But if anyone's interested in that, I can at least point you in the right direction of this program. I don't know if I can totally tell you all the technical details.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see how they play their music and from home and stuff too. I can't imagine how they would do it without some type of audio software or something like that, or a mixing
this
board.
program allows them to play. You can use your internal mic and use MP3s that are already on your computer. You can make an iTunes playlist or a playlist in your software and just drag it into this program, push start broadcast, and it creates a stream in the cloud that we then connect to that stream with our station computer and play it through our computer system and broadcast it out on the FM and through our web stream. So that's called a Zerocast. Okay. It's pretty cool.
Okay. Nice.
Allison, Vanessa, I just really would love to hear if everybody could just give us a quick maybe overview of what's going on at your station in these crazy times.
Hey guys, we're in Philadelphia. Me and Allison, we're at WPPM. We're part of a public access TV station, community media center in Philadelphia and the surrounding counties, as well as New Jersey and New York. We are all in a shelter-in-place order, so we have a pretty big staff. We're a staff of about 16 or 17 people. Allison and I are the only two, along with a student, that work at the radio station. But we had this experience where we would meet every day, full staff meeting, create an elaborate plan, start to execute that plan, and then the next day things would change and we had to throw that plan out the window and start all over again. And so it's kind of been like that every single day, because the city and the state sometimes are in conflict with one another, and there's things happening at the federal level. So right now we follow the governor. Whatever the governor says, he's been kind of like superseding the mayor, and he's the one who decided, the shelter in place. So at first it was like we reduced our hours of operation. We decided we were going to only be open from 12 to 4, not have guests. And then we were just going to temporarily close for 2 weeks and be quarantined. Now the shelter in place is indefinitely, and the mayor is buying 40,000 laptops for students in Philadelphia, which tells me that they don't plan on returning to school, the children returning to school anytime. So we had a staff meeting on Tuesday. What we said, we really just don't know. We don't know. Everything's changing so rapidly. So we're closed in the time being. We're sort of operating from a perspective that anybody could be carrying the virus, so we're all quarantining. They're like really freaking out, like at the city and state level, about people being outside. Like, it's really warm out today. It's beautiful. There's people outside everywhere. The number of cases keeps doubling every day. It just is like on a steep incline up. That being said, we don't have like a news team at WPPM. We do news, and we have public affairs programming. So we've been trying to work with our programmers as best as we can. Shout out to Allison, who made some resources that I shared to the Pacifica list, and some of the other staffers. We're trying to work with them to make programs at home. A lot of people already have home studios, so they've been sending in their shows, and I'm able to, just program them. I use Zara Studio as my automation software, and I use Team Viewer, which is, it's actually a free application, and you can remotely dial into other computers. So that's how I control the computers in the studio, as I use Team Viewer, and then I'm able to put stuff on. And like Sharon's doing, I can pick up any stream. So if somebody wants to broadcast live, I just go to that website and I can pick it up. I've been using a program called StreamYard to do the news, because it will send it to various Facebook pages. You can send it to YouTube pages. You can embed the link on your website. And what I do is on the station computer, I pick up that link and it's able to simulcast live. We haven't been able to do a consistent stream because I'm the station manager. I'm not the news director. I don't have a news team. I have been working with Allison, a volunteer, and one of the other staffers to collect news every day. But, different from all of you, like, we have so much media in Philly. Like, we have tons of broadcast media, radio stations, TV stations. I mean, people are really going crazy covering this. So some of what we have to offer is a little bit more, a little bit deeper. But I don't think people, at least in Philly, are like not able to access information like they would be maybe in like a smaller town where the community radio station is their like only source of information. So we've just been trying to like do the best we can. And people, I would say probably like 10 or 12 of the programmers are sending in shows. Hopefully we'll have more. And we're not opening the studio because of the shelter in place. And even staff are all home, like all 16 of us, we're home. Nobody's going to the building. And that's pretty much what we're doing, unless I forgot anything, Allison. We have some public service announcements. And we did open up the studio on Friday of last week because one of our producers, Emma, she did a 2-hour special in Spanish with people from the city and doctors. And there's just not been a lot of Spanish language information. So we've been, that's something that we have been able to provide the community because the one Spanish station hasn't been doing a very good job of that.
Yeah, the other thing is we are trying to get different perspectives talking about the issue. So we have a youth radio program. They produce a show called Hear Us Out, and I work with those folks along with another facilitator to try and produce bi-weekly 30-minute shows. They have lots of creative flexibility. So one thing that we're doing right now is we're actually trying out or trying to amplify our like social media and online presence in addition to pre-producing shows. Like we have been working on a show, and the students recorded a conversation and essentially recorded the show via Zoom as if it were to be live. And so that's that'll just be sent in to air on automation. But this week, or this coming week on Tuesday, the students are really familiar with something called Twitch, which is, you maybe are familiar with it, maybe not. It's really popular among young people to do like this live streaming stuff. So they were really excited about the idea of continuing to air these pre-recorded programs, but also having a discussion about their personal experiences in quarantine and like how they're coping. So that's going to be live on Twitch on Tuesday. So we're going to be getting info and promoting that on their social media and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, just trying to use all sorts of different ways to to connect with people online and on the air.
Yeah, and I'll just add that we've invited a members of the public to send in short video messages of how they're doing, because we also want to document what's happening right now. Like we see it as like an opportunity to have video of what people are feeling, what they're experiencing during this time. And so even though we can't have like lots of people calling in or be live, they've been sending 2-minute videos just talking about, like, we have a bunch of prompts that we ask them about, how they're feeling, if they're working from home, what they miss, what they're looking forward to. And we're going to compile all those videos either into a film or a special so that we have those on file as well.
I do remember Dr. Jerry saying last week when we met with him, he thought 3 to 6 months on this. Just for those who didn't hear that interview.
I would warn you, Vanessa, about TeamViewer. They can suddenly cut you off from that free usage and say your business.
Yeah, the one thing, they cut us off actually a long time ago. And that's because there was too many of us using it. But if you're just one person and you're accessing one computer, you should be good. We had like 5 computers connected and 2 users. So then we had to pay for the business account. But if you do want to get a pro account, if you go to TechSoup, you can get a discounted version if you're a nonprofit.
Because the regular price is $1,200.
Yeah, we paid $50 for the year. And StreamYard is free. But if you want to add like graphics and do a couple other things, you can pay for the pro version, which I did, and it's $25 a month. And it really works like a charm, and it's really easy to get guests.
Are you on the stream right now? Are you using that? Or are you on Zoom?
We're all on Zoom.
Okay.
Twitch is good though, Allison. A lot of our folks have started to use that as well as just a way. Basically, all we need at the studio is a stream that we can access from the DJs. And AzuraCast that I mentioned earlier is one way to do that. And then Twitch is another way people have been doing that. And a few of our DJs have been doing DJ sets actually through Twitch. But I've just been hearing that there were probably some copyright issues with that. But anyway, but just something to think about. But if you're just doing music that you have your own copyright to, or you're having a musician perform, it has fairly high sound quality. So I would definitely recommend it.
Talking about, just for a minute, about funding, I don't know if this applies to you or not, but from what I've learned here is that the state of emergency declared federally essentially made FEMA money available to states for essential services. And so there's like two things going on. One is money from the Small Business Administration, and that's for small businesses. But the FEMA money is for nonprofits. And it seems like, I mean, we're trying it, but it seems like that is money that could be available to us. And any governor that is, you know, doing any due diligence should be funneling that, should be alerting you to the fact that FEMA money is available. Now from they have like they do like FEMA does like this little slideshow, and it's a little, you know, you can't just go and say we're losing money because we can't do a fund drive. You can't do that, but you can ask for very expensive equipment. You can ask for staff. There are categories that would apply to us. So it kind of, you know, right now apparently governors are basically running the show because we're in a state of emergency. And so if you don't know anything about that, you may want to check into with your governor or your local representative. Would be, in our case, our governor is very negligent. We're run by Republicans in Iowa, so nobody's doing anything. But our local state representative, you know, went and got after the governor and said, you know, get that money. And so it is available. So if you don't know about that, you may want to check into it. It's federal, it's FEMA money.
Didn't Current just put out this morning that the CPB is going to get $75 million out of this stimulus package to help distribute to community radio stations? Wouldn't that be some type of emergency funding? We got emergency funding during the Camp Fire to buy a new generator from the CPB, and once I put out a word to them, they immediately came back and says, hey, we can get you emergency funding, just apply, give me this, give me that. And it was very quick and it was very painless, and all I had to do was a simple recap of how the money was spent, which was real easy. You know, $4,000 for a generator, $2,000 for propane, $1,500 for install. Good night, everybody. And that was
that's awesome.
That was kind of the way it went, and they gave me the money to do it, and it was there right away.
Do you know? Does anybody know here if the CPB is putting the kind of restrictions on who can get the money as they do for the you know, their usual grants? Because we're not eligible for any CPB money because we're too small. We're duplicates. You know. Do you know? Is there the same restrictions?
I don't know. On our KZFR hadn't heard at all. I just, like I said, I saw it in Current this morning, and maybe it's happening too fast. So.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. I could use $50,000 easily.
Yeah.
Couldn't we all? I'm curious to know how this has affected people's underwriting. We don't actually have underwriting, but we had a whole really great strategic plan where we were going to have a producers retreat. We got the underwriting policies implemented by the boards, and like this whole week, this month of April was supposed to be our fund drive. We were supposed to start collecting underwriting money and putting out contracts, and we haven't been able to do any of that. So that whole plan is kind of like down the toilet. But I'm wondering for people that do underwriting, how this has affected them.
Devastating.
Yeah, it's hurt. It's lots of people are either canceling or readjusting their messages. Several messages are that, hey, we're closed. Sorry, we hope to reopen in the near future, and that's kind of it. And it's been pretty difficult. We're anticipating, at least in lovely Chico, California, which is a small town, it's gonna hurt us at least 35% right now, and maybe worse in the future. So we're holding on for dear life.
I have a question. Is it do most people have like monthly contracts and they have the ability to kind of like pull them whenever?
We do. We have monthlies, and we have monthlies, 6 monthers, and yearlies. most of the yearlies have just readjusted their message to focus on the community and staying healthy. And some of them have just flat out closed. Some of them have just said, you know, our doors are closed till further notice. We hope to be back soon. Please stay tuned for details. And others have just flat out closed.
Wow.
I sat in on a video conference yesterday that I guess NFCB put on about underwriting, and it was scheduled a long time ago. So it was underwriting scripts and how to make those, you know, kosher. But there was also a section on what to do in these times. And one of the issues that came up was relationship building instead of revenue building right now. So that if there's anything one can do to you know, support the businesses that, you know, in better times support the station. So we took an idea from somebody else and put together a thing for a little banner for our website saying, you know, please support these stations that support these businesses that support us, and link to a list of all the businesses. And then we're going to have a promo announcement going on that says the same thing. To try to help, you know, give back a little bit. I mean, we give plenty to the underwriters. They're you know, they're on the air. It's a good thing, but they support us, and this is a little something that we can do. We're not making any money off of it, of course, but it's a relationship thing.
That's a good idea.
I'm curious if anybody has been able to craft any of the delicate language that kind of bridges between, I don't know, serving at this time and yet needing to survive. I'm completely dumbfounded. I don't know what that language is yet.
I don't either. I'm struggling with it too. I don't know what to exactly say to folks, other than the fact that we care about them, we're thinking about them, we're wishing well, everybody stays well and healthy. And in these times of crisis, this is, you know, taking care of your community radio station is important, because we're here for you and we're here because of you. This is the kind of stuff we did in the campfire, and it worked. We had right after the campfire in Paradise, we had one of our best pledge drives ever. And it wasn't just, you know, all pledges. They sent the money in. And it was encouraging and made me feel good about what we're doing. But it's still delicate, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it's something that you do need to, whatever you craft, it has to be from the heart, has to be honest, it has to be with love. And I think people can hear that, you know, especially because we're audio. They can hear that. They can hear in your voice that things are difficult. They can hear in your voice that you want to help and you want to stay on the air, so we can help. And the only way we can stay on the air is if you open up your pocketbook. And we've been lucky in that regard. So I don't. That's why I was going to try to segue into pledge drive, because I've got some of my staff wants to have people answering phones, and I'm going, I don't think that's a great idea. You know, my inclination is to move towards some type of online, do everything, you know, be on the air and make messages. Yes, hey, can you contribute to KZFR? But just do it strictly online and keep the public out of the building. I'm worried about that more than anything else, about us being a vector, or whatever they call it, for other people getting, you know, infected and spreading this stuff around. So I don't know what else to do other than to just craft something like that and do it. Does anybody else think that having phone volunteers come into the building is a good idea?
No.
No.
Definitely not.
Don't do any pledge drives. We just are only listener supported. But what we do is we're asking for money all the time, but in very short, little 1-minute segments between shows. We scatter them around. We have different ones for donating shows, and people still keep sending us money. They do. I'm always shocked. It's not enough in reality, but people understand that you have to have money to operate, and I don't think there's any problem with just acting on a regular basis, doing shows. You know, this whole thing of having these concentrated pledge drives is just one method of raising money, and there's lots of other ones. So don't be afraid to just ask, hey, what do you need money?
Well, we're a tourist town, and so all of our, and that's like the main employer here in Asheville. All of our restaurants are closed, the bars are closed, the breweries are closed, and everybody is asking for money. So I don't know if it's possible to even consider in our town at this time broaching the subject of giving us support. I think it's, in our case, we're going to have to bite the bullet and hold on until the whole thing passes over and we see who's left. Meantime, continue building those relationships and putting out as much helpful information as we can so that we are significant to the community and they know we're significant. So that's where WPVM is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is anybody going to postpone their spring fund drive, or are you guys going to go forward with it?
Well, we had a fundraising event planned for yesterday, and of course that is, you know, nothing. That didn't happen, and yeah, we were supposed to start our fund drive now, and there's just no way we could do that right now. It's not even physically or emotionally possible right now to do that. I can't imagine doing it. The only thing I can imagine, and I don't really even think this would work, it would be, I mean, we do have a small, you know, small amount of larger donors, and, you know, in Ames, Iowa, that means, you know, $250 or more. We're not talking about, you know, big bucks here. We may, I mean, if we, I mean, we're going to run out of money in 2 months. We've got 2 months to live, and that's it. We'll be broke. We don't have any more money. And so maybe go to those people that give regularly, you know, once a year, a larger amount, go to them and say, you know, borrow against the future, and say, can you give us next year's donation now, you know, so we see next year. I don't know if you can make an argument like that. I don't even know if it's wise to do that. It might work, because sometimes when people do that, they just give it to you again anyway, you know. But that's the only, like, I'm trying to think, you know, how are we going to pay our bills in 2 months? And maybe that would work. I don't know.
The bill that's passed the Senate includes, you know, no to low interest loans to nonprofits and small businesses. So supposedly we should be able to apply for those. And if you keep people on payroll, if you do that, you don't have to pay the loan back in some of the language. Until it actually gets finished and signed by Trump, we don't know the exact details, but I think there is going to be some help from that bill.
Well, I guess we're going to have to learn about that. It's kind of happening in real time, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, the bill has been voted on in the Senate. It's been sent to the House. They'll probably vote on it tomorrow. So yeah, I've combed through the bill. I've been reporting on it. What Robin is saying is true. What's unclear to me is like what the specific criteria is for nonprofit organizations. All of the language I'm seeing is for small businesses, you know. So if they consider us a small business, if nonprofits can apply, then that would open us up to that funding. But if they don't consider us a business, then I don't know if we qualify. So we can definitely look into that.
I'm pretty sure they're going to include nonprofits. I mean, I find it hard to believe they would exclude them. The other thing is that the unemployment insurance is going to be very generous. I mean, you might be working as a barista 2 days a week and you're laid off. You actually qualify for the unemployment plus $600 a week for 4 months, in addition to that. So you would actually be making more than you were making as a barista to start with. So, you know, people, there is going to be money flowing through the community. So I wouldn't just think that everyone's completely broke and can't do anything.
Yeah, I would also add that the city of Philadelphia started a relief fund just for nonprofits. And there's about $7 million in that pot since they started it a few days ago. And they said that they were keeping the funding separate for nonprofits and small businesses. There's like a separate relief effort for small businesses. So it might be, even if, you know, the federal stimulus package, it doesn't give us that direct relief, that you can go through local or state offices. I know the PA legislature has passed a number of bills for relief efforts that's going to the governor. So again, I think, you know, all the different levels of office, you know, people in legislature, they're working on those things. So what I remember about the stimulus money from, you know, Obama's time, I was a development director at a nonprofit, is that they made the money available through grants, and there was a ton of money. That money was definitely widely available. So that might be the other thing that we can consider, is, you know, applying for grants to do programming or whatever.
And on that note, I'll just say that we're reaching 4:30 now. I don't know if you guys want to just call this a stopping point or talk a little more. Well, we'll definitely have another meeting this next Thursday. How do you guys feel about? Do you want to have more discussion, or should we leave it for here?
We can leave it here. I think my battery on my phone's out. I have you on the phone.
Okay.
Thanks,
I'm at
everybody.
home, homeschooling.
Well, cool. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This has been a really good talk. And
Thanks,
we'll just keep
Ursula.
going.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, one thing I want to say, just in terms of mental health, I don't know about you guys, but my own mental health has been an issue repeatedly, and I'm just really learning to take time off. You know, in a way that I never have before. So that's been my solution, is just, you know, just keep telling myself I'm only going to do as much as I can, and then I'm going to stop. So I guess thanks for listening.
Good call.
Hang in there.
I feel you, Ursula. It's a lot of anxiety. It's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
I think I had a moment yesterday where I was like, ah. But I think, you know, what helped me was like, I just need to unplug. No computer, no phone, no news. I'm going to hang out with my dog and talk to my plants. And just, I even I actually did for a minute put on like a meditation video from YouTube, and that was sort of helpful. But I think what we're all experiencing is normal. I guess like the reaction is normal. So you're not alone in that.
No, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. The other morning I got up in the dark because we were doing the morning show, and we have all these deer here, and the deer were all standing around the driveway watching me, you know, get in my car, and they kind of look at you, you know, and it was weird, you know, I related to them in a way I never had before. I looked at them and I was like, you know, guys, we're having a really hard time over here in the human world, you know, like, and they kind of looked at me, and I thought, you know, and afterwards I was asking myself, so why did I suddenly feel so connected to them? And then I realized, like, I've never felt like an animal of prey before, you know, but now, you know, like, I'm an animal of prey, you know, and I've never been preyed on before. And they were like, yeah, we know what it's like to be preyed on. So it was just kind of an interesting moment of strange connection with, oh yeah, I'm an animal too, you know. So it's nice to talk to the deer about that. They come at me thoughtfully, you know. So
about constant alertness.
Well, this is a great group of people, and we're all doing the best we can, and I'm really glad to be part of it. So thanks. Everybody.
Well said. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, we'll see you again next week, guys. Thanks.
Yeah.
All
Bye-bye.
right, bye.
Okay.
Thank you all.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.